But for the MVP race, I have Paul George winning it over Giannis and James Harden.
But that is putting a lot of confidence in one player. I mean, what puts Paul George over Harden and Giannis for you?
Well, I mean, when you take a look at the stats, Giannis is averaging 27 points. He's shooting 58% from the field, roughly about 13 rebounds, 6 assists, a block and steal a game. James Harden is at 36 points. He's shooting 44% from the field, about 6 rebounds, 8 assists, and 2 steals a game. Paul George is averaging almost 29 points a game, which is second behind James Harden. He's shooting 45% from the field, which is a career year for him. 8 rebounds a game, 4 assists, and almost 2.5 steals a game. Now, I mean, when you take a look at Giannis, of course he's going to have more rebounds. Him just being the paint player that he is, he's going to dominate in that stat with his field goal percentage because he's taking so many shots close to the basket. But teams soon enough during the playoffs, if they go against a very smart coach that has a good setup, I feel like you can zero in on that on the playoffs to limit the offense that Giannis can provide for the Bucks. You can't necessarily just stop one part of Paul George's game since he's such an all-around offensive player. Like, he can go to the paint, he can slash, he can shoot the mid-range jumper, he can shoot the three, he can, expand the floor in ways that I feel like Giannis hasn't shown this season.
With Paul George, when he told the coaches to not run plays for him, I think that just opened his game up to another level. He can just really do whatever he pleases, and he doesn't have to feel like I have to be the number one guy. I have to run these plays. He's just doing, his game, and it's working for him. And sadly to say with that, I don't think he's the MVP at this moment. I think it's James Harden. And the only reason why I say that is because when the team was down, because they had a rough start to the season, it was really bad. I mean, you said last week, of course, people blame Carmelo. I don't think it's Carmelo at all.
Right.
But they was having a rough season. I think Trevor Ariza really hurt them. Him leaving to go to Phoenix because that was their anchor.
Right.
And the defense. And, of course, he could still shoot the ball, which helped them out when James Harden kicked out to him. He could shoot that thing.
Right.
But when times was rough, Chris Paul was hurt. They still was having a rough season. He put the team on his back and literally carried them to like becoming better and better throughout the whole season as the season continued. And with him scoring just the way he is and still managing, I mean, his numbers are down for the assists and everything, but just the way he can score and just carry a team to where they're at right now, I believe that's MVP worthy.
I mean, he is playing good, and I do understand, the MVP award is obviously a regular season award. But, I mean, when you look into, the longer span of things, like the playoffs, he can't keep that up. Like, you can't keep up this scoring pace that he's doing. One, Chris Paul is back, so that's obviously going to take away from his touches. But I think that at some point he's going to slow down because he's going to realize, I need to save some of my energy for playoffs. Like, Chris Paul is back, let him, get more touches, basically, get back into the flow. And I feel like that's going to hurt his numbers. Obviously, he's still going to win the scoring title because when you're averaging 36.5 points a game, you can't catch up to that. That's insanity numbers. Wilt Chamberlain used to average some crazy points, crazy points during the season, and James Harden is basically providing that for us, in our generation of basketball. But when you take into account PG, 8 of the 10 past games he's had over 36 points, and 4 40-point games in 8 of those 10 games. 43 at Miami, 45 and 47 at Houston and Portland in back-to-back games, and then he had 45 in double OT last night against Utah. I feel like when you take this into account, that puts Paul George in the driver's seat for, the MVP. He's having a career year in points, career year in assists, career year rebounds, and steals. And like you said, when he told the coaches not to run the offense around him, it freed up his game. He proved that last night by the fact that, first off, he made the game winner. So let's just say that he iced the game against the Jazz. Yeah. But before that, in order to set his team up to go up by 1, he drove and drew the double team, kicked it out, and then Dennis Schroeder gave one more pass to the corner, basically that gave them that open 3 to essentially seal the game. And this unselfish play like that, that's MVP worthy. I can't see James Harden giving up the ball in that type of situation and trusting his teammates enough, and in order to win the game in double OT. I couldn't see that from James Harden.
I mean, didn't you mention something about Jeremy Grant winning Improved Player of the Year?
He's Jeremy Grant is definitely up there. I think Pascal Siakam from the Toronto Raptors is actually going to be the one that's going to win it. But I do feel like it's between Jeremy Grant and Pascal Siakam, just because they're like the numbers are so close. But I also feel like when you look at Westbrook, he's almost averaging another triple double for the season, and Jeremy Grant potentially being a most improved player of the year, award winner. Like that shows how much. Players, when they work as a team, he's helping everyone play better. Russell Westbrook, he did have 40+ last night, but he also took a step back understanding I'm not having a good shooting year. I can put that trust into Paul George, and in order for us to have a good team and a good season with good chemistry, because you need that going to the playoffs. But I don't feel like you're getting that from James Harden. And I mean, Giannis is really good. Watching his game against Boston, he had 30 points, 13 rebounds, 6 assists, and 2 blocks.
Giannis is amazing. I mean, he's so athletic and long. It's hard to stop him, to do anything. Of course, he can rebound, and he can take 2 steps and get from the 3-point line to the paint. And how can you stop that as, a player? If you're a big, he's so much faster than you, you really can't stop it. If you're a guard, he's too big to stop him. So it's like he's just impossible to figure out, which is making him a MVP candidate for sure.